President of Business Operations Tim Harris will reportedly leave the organization after this season. Lakers fans are wondering if this means bigger changes are coming under new owner Mark Walter. We'll tell you next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. Spotify, maybe you're an Apple guy, maybe you're one of the 37,000 plus subscribers to Locked On Lakers on YouTube. No matter how you get the show, Andy, you are part of making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in any universe that we've ever heard of, at the very least. Brian Kamenetsky with Andy Kamenetsky. We covered the team for nearly 20 years with ESPN, with the LA Times, with the Athletic. And in that time, Andy, a lot of changes. Now we've seen a guy who's been there the entire time that you and I have been there, Tim Harris, 35-year veteran of the Forum and working with the Lakers. On the business side, he reportedly, Dan Woike reporting on Tuesday morning that he would be leaving the organization at the end of the year. And you and I think it should be said, I don't know why. Talk to Tim about it. I don't know if this is related to changes with Mark Walter coming in as the new owner. I don't know if it's a guy who's just been in this job for 35 years and is ready to move on. Tim is
combination of many things.
Could be. Tim has always been great to us, and so we certainly wish him the best.
Yeah.
But I think with this is one of those things where it gets people thinking and talking because they are looking for, and if you're a fan, really on the basketball side, not the business side, but if you're a fan, you're looking for signs that more changes are coming under new owner Mark Walter.
Yeah, one last thing I wanted to say about Tim, just because it's considered one of his biggest accomplishments, the TV deal that they have with Spectrum Sportsnet, which is, it's produced some awesome product. The game broadcast itself, the coverage and analysis, occasionally Brian and I pop up on those programs as well. It's been a really, really good, I think, partnership between the Lakers and a network, to say nothing of it's been lucrative as bleep for the franchise.
I thought that's what you meant. It was a very profitable, good deal for
right. I was getting to that, and Tim Harris is considered by many to be the primary architect of that, and the driving force behind it. So I just wanted to make sure to mention that. As far as the what does it all mean with Tim Harris leaving, this coming on the heels of Joey and Jesse Buss being fired, and they had direct roles in the basketball piece of the Lakers. Two guys that, in their minds, at the very least, were setting up to eventually be running the big club
pre-sale.
Right, pre-sale, exactly. Tim Harris, I think his exit represents another piece of that history disappearing, for lack of a better way of putting it, and a new book being written for the Lakers. And also it represents a real member. This is the first real member of Jeannie Buss's inner circle exiting the organization. That circle has been seen as Tim Harris, Rob Pelinka, Kurt Rambis, Linda Rambis. Like, those are really the innermost members of that circle. It's always been an unusually small front office, in both Brian and my opinions. It's been way too small in ways that has damaged the organization or prevented it from being as good as it can be. And that's not even necessarily a reflection of each individual person, but it's been too many people who've been only inside that building.
I mean, I guess they would argue Rob, but I mean, Rob comes with
Rob's time. Yeah, exactly. He has never done this job anywhere else but with the Lakers. And Magic at one point was part of that inner circle as well. His experience was all inside the Lakers. Like, this, if nothing else, to me, signals the true beginning of bringing in people who don't check Jeannie's personal relationship as a big box at the very, maybe not primary.
The start of a
but very
transition.
big.
Here's the thing. We'll take a break here in a second. We'll talk about this afterwards. It is clearly, I think, the beginning of a transition. Again, I have no idea why Tim left. I haven't talked to him or why Tim is going to leave. He has been there for 35 years.
Yeah.
Was part of one of these guys, was one of the reportedly people who got a nice payout with the sale and all this. There are a lot of reasons that
the Ramby as well, and that's important to note too.
Right. None of this is, necessarily like, Mark Walter cleaning house. And I think there's a lot of wish casting, I think, from Lakers fans, especially, and a lot of kind of tea leaf reading on the part of Lakers media, people people like us, whether they're, day-to-day reporters or people, podcasters like us. So let's take a break. And because what you were saying, I think, is potentially true, but I'm not sure it's true. And we'll still talk about it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. The Winter Olympics are officially here, and you are likely locking in for events that you can only see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel, it just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. Like curling, for example. Nobody really understands it. Let's be honest. If you're watching it, it's the first time you've watched it since 4 years ago. But doesn't matter. You're going to be just locked into the action. You're going to be treating this with intensity and excitement. It becomes must watch when you're with FanDuel. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on. There's no better way to follow them with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game.
Locked On Lakers is also brought to you by Quo. New systems, new year. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Quo makes things simple, from working right from your phone or computer. You can keep your existing number. Everybody working from one shared business number so nothing gets missed. All kinds of convenience features that keep your team working together. So it's no surprise that Quo is the number one rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. So make this a year where no opportunities and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers.
And finally, Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring's not just about finding someone willing to take the job. You want the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs, that's your move. Instead of just hoping the right person magically sees your post somehow, Indeed helps boost your job listing to people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certification, and location. If I was hiring, I don't want just someone who can help. That's basically anybody. I want someone with real experience who can jump right in. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I have been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data, worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
So two things here. For the first one is when Lakers fans express frustration with Jeannie, for example, they're really expressing frustration with her oversight over basketball operations. I don't think anybody has any real problems with how Jeannie runs the business. I
don't think they care.
Exactly. Other than how the operation of the business allows them to spend money on basketball.
Yeah.
But that was really independent of how good of a job she was doing, and more just related to, can you find a few $1 billion of liquidity under a couch cushion somewhere, which they couldn't. So, when people talk about big changes coming. And Tim Harris leaving the organization is a big change to the organization.
Yes, it is.
It's not from an area, though, where people would look at it and be like, thank God change is coming to the Lakers. That's really the basketball side. The business side, Tim Harris, Jeannie, who is ostensibly going to stay and continue. And over time, let me finish, but if she stays in the org, it is much more likely that she stays in the function of a business side person than somebody who's ultimately making the decisions about the basketball sides, because that's what Mark Walter is for, is to decide, am I going to spend my money on X, Y, and Z? Are we going to do my money for these, these products? So I think over time, if Jeannie does stay these 5 years that they agreed on it's going to be over time, mostly towards the business side of things. And we'll see less of her involvement on the basketball side, which, by the way, I think is just fine with Jeannie. When people are talking about changes, they're talking about the basketball side. And I don't know if this is a foreshadowing of big changes coming to that side of the office. I know Lakers fans want it to be. And I know there's already reporting that like this summer is going to bring a lot of the Lakers have to build out their scouting department again. They ought to build their basketball ops department much larger than it has been, their analytics department, all these other things. Like, this is all infrastructure that needs to grow quickly.
Yeah, but I would say this. First of all, it has always been my impression that while Tim Harris, I've always gotten the impression that he was not without voice in basketball decisions.
Sure,
and
I would agree with that.
And certainly somebody that Jeannie had as a sounding board and somebody that she considered close counsel for all things, which I imagine include basketball. And the fact that a true inner circle member is going to be leaving, that in and of itself, to me, constitutes big change, because if nothing else, 1/4 of the circle's out. Like 25% of your circle is leaving. That by definition is a big deal.
I'm not.
But what I'm saying is, I do think this actually affects the basketball, and I do think it actually affects the things that the fans care about, because when the circle is that small in terms of the people who have actual voice in the things that go on in the organization that the fans damn well sure do care about, I don't think it can be overstated how important this is and what it may signal moving forward, because the Lakers have been a way things have always been organization for a long time, and frankly, way too long. And
for sure.
That Tim Harris's departure, and I want to make it clear, I don't mean this as a slight against Tim. It represents a freshness that this organization has needed. It represents momentum in a direction that the organization has needed to go, and I think will be going, independent of Tim himself.
Well, I mean, two things over there. I will say, one place I agree with you is that obviously it's one more person or one less person who I think is part of the infrastructure that potentially makes that adds security to Rob. I don't know, because I don't know what that relationship looks like. I'm
not talking about the insulation to Rob or security for Rob. That falls on Mark Walter. If Mark Walter
that's what I'm getting
to. Gone.
That's kind of what I'm getting to. Like, those types of things, to whatever extent, people like the Rambuses and Tim Harris were involved in what would be considered basketball decisions as opposed to the business of basketball. Obviously that should start to shift to whoever they bring into this front office, but we'll see over time that, the building of the infrastructure is really just going to be a thing that takes place at some speed. I think Lakers fans hope it happens really, really fast, and it might. It also might take a little bit longer. I think Lakers fans would love to see a new infrastructure in place in time for some of the big decisions that are going to have to come in what is a crucial offseason for them. And I don't think all of that will be in place.
Well, it depends on how you're defining new infrastructure. If you're talking about an infrastructure that no longer includes Rob Pelinka,
no,
you
but
may be right.
I'll tell you what I'm talking about. A something when people think of the Dodgers, where especially relatively early in that process, they brought in tons and tons of people, not just Andrew Friedman, but people around Andrew Friedman. They had like 17 former GMs, just where like if you were a former GM who somebody thought was smart and currently was out of a job, like the Dodgers just hoovered you up to be a consultant basically for them for a season or two. Didn't happen right away. Ned Colletti stayed on as the GM, I believe, for 2 years before he was kind of quietly retired from the team. I have no doubt that in 4 years, things are going to look vastly different in the front office, both in terms of the remnants of this era, and also just how big all of it is and what the infrastructure looks like. I just don't know how quick it's going to come, and we'll see. Like I think they're going to start hiring out people. I think they're going to start building. Lakers fans want a process that looks more, I think, like the sort of finished version of the Dodgers rather than the sort of deliberate process that Walter and his group, the Guggenheim group, went through when they bought the team as they started to put it together.
The one counter I would say quickly to what you were talking about before, Mark Walter at that point was newer at owning a team than he is now. Like, a decade and a half has passed since he purchased the Dodgers. So some of the cautiousness may not still exist simply because he's more accustomed to how this stuff works just through true experience. And he had, to the best of my knowledge, spent far less time around the Dodgers than he had been as a minority owner of the Lakers for several years before eventually doing this. So I am guessing he is much more familiar with what works in his mind and what doesn't work in his mind with the Lakers than he was with the Dodgers. And also, too, at the very least, there needs to be and should be more people around Rob this offseason, whether he keeps the role or not, simply because there's no excuse for it not being. It's too big of a job for it just to be Rob Pelinka essentially working unilaterally. And that would be Mark Walter, frankly, being derelict in his duty.
It's just a question of how fast. I like I said, I don't know if he.
There are different things that can be done with different speeds.
I don't know if Walter would agree with you that it's a dereliction of duty to not do it by this summer.
To bring in nobody else but Rob Pelinka?
That to bring in, people that would have the capacity to change his mind over, whether it's to overrule Rob Pelinka, to whatever it is, to create an architecture to which Rob loses some degree of autonomy and control over the basketball operations. I don't know if that's going to happen by the summer, and I don't think Walter would necessarily agree with you that from a process standpoint,
you don't have to agree
that should. Well, if he doesn't agree with you, then those things aren't going to happen. And he wouldn't. My point is, I don't think he would agree that it's a dereliction of duty.
Okay,
it's a longer term project than
it's a longer term project, but the first step is really damn big. So you may not have the luxury of treating everything with the time that you would ideally, because they are faced right now with a type of decision in front of them with building around Luka that they were not faced with at the time when Mark Walter bought the Dodgers. And that's a major difference in and of itself. I mean, I don't remember exactly where. Team was, where the team was status-wise. It was about 2.5 years before they hired Andrew Friedman, by the way. But I just looked it up. Like, they will move, and I think they will move reasonably quickly. I don't think a lot of the people that they would want to hire will be available until after the season's over anyway. Scouts are a different story.
it's just going to be a push, a process that I don't think is ever going to go as fast as Lakers fans hope it will.
Again, it depends
we'll
on
see.
which
It might.
pieces of-
Let me rephrase. It might go that fast. I just don't know if it will, and I think it could end up being a little bit more deliberate than that, especially given how fast this timeline is.
That's fine. And also, too, a lot of this timeline and what people are talking about speed is when the hell is he firing Rob Pelinka? And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the pieces that you put around Rob, even if you want to give him another extension on.
That's right. I just think Rob will likely hire a lot of those people, at least initially. We'll see. Because if he doesn't, then there's really no point. You might as well replace Rob, which, by the way, is I think people would be okay with. Anyway, it's an intriguing beginning to what looks like potential restructuring of how things are done across the organization, whether or slow or fast. We'll see how it goes. Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 37,000 subscribers to the channel. We'll see everyone next time.